Imagine standing on Indiana soil, not knowing you are actually walking across the ancient remains of a 390 million-year-old tropical coral reef, one that shaped everything from the back roads you drive to the limestone that built America's cities. Most people think they know Indiana, but the truth is far stranger than the name suggests. And the consequences of this forgotten past are still shaping every corner of the state. What secrets lie beneath your feet, and how did they lead to the Indiana you never really knew? Beneath the grass and pavement of Indiana, the ground itself tells a story that stretches back nearly 390 million years. In the middle of the Devonian period, this land lay just south of the equator, blanketed by a warm, shallow sea. Coral colonies, brachiopods, and strange reef creatures thrived in those sunlit waters, their skeletons piling up layer by layer as the centuries slipped by. Over time, those remains hardened into limestone, forming vast underwater reefs. Today, at places like the Falls of the Ohio, you can walk across a fossil pavement where entire coral heads and ancient shells lie frozen in stone, exactly where they lived and died. State geologists say this is one of the world's best snapshots of a prehistoric reef, a literal time machine under your feet. Quarry blasts and river floods have peeled back the layers, exposing a sea floor older than the Appalachian Mountains. Every fossil, every ripple in the rock is a reminder that Indiana's foundation is anything but ordinary. Long before pavement and painted lines, Indiana's most important roads began as animal highways. Bison weighing nearly a ton each trampled broad corridors through the forests and wetlands, always searching for salt licks and open water. Native peoples followed these paths for generations, turning them into vital trade and migration routes. The best known is the Buffalo Trace, a wide, muddy swath that stretched from the Falls of the Ohio to Vincennes. Even today, U.S. Route 150 runs almost exactly where the buffalo once walked. Early settlers and military surveyors mapped these trails, then widened them for wagons and stagecoaches, laying the groundwork for Indiana's first state roads. Over time, the traces of hooves and moccasins were buried under gravel, then blacktop, but the old alignments remain. Modern highways like U.S. Route 40 and the Michigan Road still echo the logic of those ancient paths, threading through the easiest river crossings and ridgelines. Every mile of asphalt carries a hidden memory of the land's first travelers. A century ago, Northwest Indiana looked nothing like the checkerboard of corn and soybeans you see today. The Grand Kankakee Marsh, once called the Everglades of the North, sprawled across nearly 1 million acres, thick with reeds, waterfowl, and twisting river channels. Early settlers saw a wild, unpredictable landscape. Soaked fields one year, bone dry the next. By the late 1800s, drainage laws and county ditch crews set out to conquer the marsh. They straightened the Kankakee River, dug hundreds of miles of ditches, and laid clay tiles beneath the soil, turning wetlands into some of the richest farmland in the Midwest. Across Indiana, forests fell to the axe and prairie grass gave way to plows. Today, fourth-generation farmers walk fields where their great-grandparents once paddled canoes. Indiana now ranks near the top for corn and soybean production, feeding factories, ethanol plants, and livestock across the country. But the trade-off is plain. Most of the original wetlands are gone, and the land's memory of water lingers only in the names of old ditches and the stories handed down at kitchen tables. South Central Indiana sits on a foundation riddled with hidden passages and hollowed stone. The Salem Limestone Belt, stretching from Bedford to Bloomington, supplies building blocks for landmarks across the country. But it is what lies beneath that keeps geologists up at night. This region is classic karst terrain, where rainwater carves deep caverns and sinkholes open without warning. A single crack in the rock can send fertilizer, oil, or waste straight into aquifers that feed entire towns. In some places, a spill on the surface can reach a municipal well in hours, not weeks. Quarry blasts rumble through neighborhoods, and every new development brings arguments over groundwater safety. One state geologist calls it Swiss cheese under your sneakers, a landscape where the ground itself can vanish, and the water you drink depends on what is happening in the dark, unseen layers below. Indiana doesn't just grow corn, it is the popcorn capital of America. Each summer you will find fields of popcorn stretching across the state, with farmers planting nearly 90,000 acres just for this one crop. That harvest supplies movie theaters, snack companies, and ballparks across the country. Much of it traces back to Orville Redenbacher, the bow-tied seed wizard from Valparaiso who spent decades tinkering with popcorn hybrids until he found the perfect pop, light, fluffy, and nearly hull-free. Meanwhile, on the edge of Indianapolis, another Indiana icon claims the title for sheer size. The Indianapolis Motor Speedway sprawls over 550 acres, making it bigger than Vatican City and dwarfing Churchill Downs by more than 400 acres. The original racetrack was paved with 3.2 million bricks, earning it the nickname the Brickyard. Today, fans still kiss a strip of those bricks after every big win, a tradition as outsized as the Speedway itself. Indiana's interstate system forms a lattice so dense, logistics planners call it the beating heart of Midwest freight. 6 major interstates, 65, 69, 70, 74, 80, and 90, and the looping 465 crisscross the state, putting nearly every county within easy reach of a 4-lane highway. Distribution centers and warehouse parks cluster along these routes, fueled by the promise that a truck leaving Indianapolis can reach more than half the U.S. population within a day's drive. A regional planner explains that this is not just coincidence. The old logic of buffalo trails and trade paths still guides where goods flow. Today, Indiana's web of highways supports a booming logistics sector, drawing in companies who need speed and reach. But the same network that powers next-day delivery also brings new headaches, sprawl, traffic, and mounting pressure on small towns caught in the crosshairs of growth. On a July afternoon in Tipton County, the air hangs heavy over rows of corn that seem to stretch forever. Fourth-generation farmer Mike Rader keeps one eye on the sky and the other on his weather app. In the last decade, the rules of Indiana farming have started to change. Summer heat waves arrive earlier and stick around longer, pushing crops to their limit just as they are supposed to be filling out. When the rain does come, it is often in wild, pounding bursts that flood fields and wash away topsoil. Purdue University's climate team warns that by mid-century average, temperatures could climb 3 to 5 degrees. Heavy rainfall events are already up by more than 15% since the 1950s, and the trend is only accelerating. For farmers like Mike, that means planting windows shrink, weeds and pests shift, and whole fields can be wiped out by a single storm. Crop models now predict that without new strategies, Indiana's corn and soybean yields could drop sharply in the coming decades. Mike experiments with drought-tolerant hybrids and tweaks his planting dates, but the ground he inherited feels less predictable every year. The future of Indiana's fields is no longer just about hard work. It is about adapting, fast, before the weather rewrites the rules for good. Bulldozers cut a new line through Monroe County, but the battle over I-69 never stayed on the surveyor's maps. At public meetings, planners pointed to traffic models and job projections, arguing the highway would unlock new tech parks and speed freight across the state. Across the aisle, neighbors clutched maps of underground streams and cave systems, warning that a single spill could flow straight into their wells. Lawsuits piled up, many zeroing in on the fate of the Indiana bat, An endangered species that roosts in the forest stands marked for clearing. Conservation groups argued that fragmenting these woods could push the bats closer to extinction, while state engineers countered with mitigation plans and new corridors. In court, property owners fought eminent domain, some refusing the state's first offer for land that had been in the family for generations. Others watched orange fencing appear overnight, dividing fields and backyards. Each side claimed to speak for Indiana's future, one for growth and economic promise, the other for water, wildlife, and a sense of place that can't be rebuilt. The route is paved, but the question of what's lost and what's gained still hangs in the air. Indiana's past and future collide beneath our feet, where ancient seas shape today's water and stone, and every choice leaves its mark. As climate, technology, and growth reshape the state, one fact remains: the land remembers everything. What story will Indiana tell next? Drop your thoughts below.